Can anything be learned from the Iran deal? Either don't do this or do this as we approach North Korea?
Well, I don't know so much about North Korea. I think people arguing for a parallel effort to get an Iran deal in North Korea are more optimistic than I am. You know, they may be right, but I guess I don't share their enthusiasm for that undertaking. And what's interesting is a good number of people who pushed the agreed framework are more circumspect than that, is my reading. Mr. Gallucci, who I'm friendly with, for example, who was very responsible for promoting the agreed framework, now argues that although he wants to negotiate with the North, as a practical matter, they'd have to do more on the human rights front before you could do so. I think that's telling. I mean, his judgment should not be dismissed as irrelevant to this point. I think, however, the Iran deal does speak to the broader question of nuclear activities that are so-called peaceful in Japan, South Korea, and China. One of the things the Iran deal does is it more or less pushes the separation of plutonium, which can be used to make nuclear weapons, out of the picture, because it says, well, the Iranians say that we're not going to do it. And they make it sound like it's an indefinite. It's not binding after a certain number of years, but they say, well, we're not interested. Of course, in 10 or 15 years, these various controls over making materials that could possibly be of military utility come off. And they say, the Iranians, we want to be like Japan. Well, it would be nice if Japan wasn't reprocessing and put a cap on its own enrichment, so that to be like Japan would mean to still be constrained. That's not the case right now. So in that sense, it would be useful if we could persuade Japan, for reasons having to do with the relations with South Korea and China, to defer opening up that plant we described, the plant Rakasha, that makes, it's designed to make 1,500 bombs worth of material a year or more. They've deferred 20 times in the past. How about a 21st time? And go to the Chinese and say, why don't you defer? If you don't like them doing this, why don't you not go forward with your own plans to open up a plant? Because after all, these activities technically and financially make no sense. I mean, you can't make money separating plutonium from spent fuel. It's not a very good fuel compared to fresh uranium fuel. It's something that we thought we had to do when we thought we were going to have so many nuclear power plants in the world, we're going to run out of uranium. That's not the case. So why don't you just hold off? I mean, they tried to go ahead with construction last year in August. People poured out in the streets in China and said, we don't want it. They had to back down. So there should be no rush to do this. And then we could turn to the South Koreans and say, well, look, your neighbors aren't doing it. You shouldn't ask us to encourage you to do it. Anyway, just a thought. I think there is a connective tissue in any case with those countries and the Iran deal. Yeah, there is, potentially.